Okay. Are you guys seeing the course, the Canvas shell?
Yep.
Okay. And let's just go down to this section. So, so you watched his videos,
Mm-hmm.
and you looked at the, because he really kind of talks you through exactly how to conduct the analysis.
Yes, and that's pretty, I understood the ANOVA pieces of it, I believe. But then he talks about creating the dummy variables for the purpose of a linear regression. And because you can't have the the nominal variables for a linear regression. And I guess that's where I was kind of getting hung up between question 1 and question 2.
Yeah, so he gives you more information than what you need to actually do this assignment, because we're not going to linear regression yet. You're going to talk some about regression in a few weeks, but for the purpose of this, you're going to recode the variables and then conduct the ANOVA analysis. So don't get, he does give you more information on the ways you can, if there's multiple ways to get there, to get the answers, and perhaps the way he goes into that you can also do linear regression is getting you confused, because you're not going to do linear regression for this assignment. So the things that you want to do is use that tooth growth data set and create the dummy variables for dose, and then copy that syntax using that paste command that he walks you through exactly how to do that. That's number 1, exactly what he does. Then number 2 is going to be to conduct the ANOVA analysis to answer the question if there are differences in tooth growth with those multiple factors.
So we need to use the recoded leveled variables versus letting ANOVA do it itself, or letting SPSS do it automatically.
You need to copy the code for question number 1, and for number 2, you can do it either way, as long as you come up with the right answer to what are the differences in tooth growth with those multiple factors. It doesn't matter. The reason why he has you go through the exercise of creating the code is that then you can just plug the code in and you don't have to go through all the steps in SPSS to recode each time. But to do number 2, it doesn't really matter which way you do it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, Melissa, I'm so glad you asked that question, because I had the same question.
Let me think on that a little bit, and you maybe answer if you think it answers it, and then because I'm not sure.
Let me just reiterate my understanding, and let's see if I hear this correctly. It's almost like the first question is separate from question 2, really.
It really is separate.
Yeah,
they are 2 separate things.
Good,
and,
because
the intent of question number 1, Ollie used to work in the Center for Nursing Research, and he used to have lots and lots of doctoral students come to him, both DNP and PhD, come to him for help with doing analysis for their projects or their dissertations. And when you have the same variables that you need to create a dummy variable for, that you're going to analyze multiple different ways, and you go through this process in SPSS every single time for every step of the analysis, it takes a whole lot more time. So he wanted you to know how to create the code so you could just plug the code in and then you wouldn't have to repeat the process. So that's the point of number one.
Okay.
Is that you now know how to do the process of recoding the variables and then copy that code so that you don't have to ask SPSS to redo it every time. But for number two, it's a separate question and it doesn't matter to me which way you do it. So
Okay.
if you want to plug in the code so you don't have to recode the variables, you can do that and just move on and conduct the analysis. Or you can go ahead and use SPSS and have them recode and then conduct it.
Because Bonnie, we're really, for the purpose of this assignment, so I just went ahead and did number two first. I went through the tutorial on how to do ANOVA, and I got my results and my printout, and I sent copies to my DNP partner. And sorry about that, it's my phone. And then I went back and looked at question one, and now I understand the intent of it. So that was also a question I had. It's like, why are we even doing this? But I get it now.
Yeah.
But we're not doing repeat. For this assignment, we don't have to keep, it doesn't really matter if we have the syntax because we're not doing multiple tests for this assignment.
That is correct.
It was more an exercise of being aware of what's possible and available for the future.
So the way he designed this assignment to begin with was just to have you copy that code and submit it and not go ahead and do the analysis.
Okay.
And I thought, you might as well run the analysis and tell me what it means, because that's going to be, I think, more useful.
Yeah.
Just copying code. So it's two separate things, and the reason why he was kind of really convinced you needed to know how to copy the code is that when it comes to the reality of your projects and your dissertation, many times you're redoing that same process many times. And if you just copy the code, you can skip that whole recoding part. Does that make sense now, Melissa? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I was having trouble letting go of it.
Well, I know if it's confusing, I'd like to clarify because they are separate. And then you need to interpret the findings. So what do you know about tooth growth in these little animals with these various conditions? And then some thoughts from the DMPs on the clinical significance, and then the peer eval stuff again. Are there other questions?
I think the only other question I have might be what I'm supposed to figure out for the assignment. So I don't know if I should ask it here.
Well, you know me, I'm good at saying I can't answer that.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, Trouty and I were talking about this last night, and I think the bottom line is, and I find this fascinating actually, and Dr. O even says it on his PowerPoint, so that at the lower, can't remember which one of them is superior at the low and medium doses. You know, one of them, I can't remember, I think orange juice is superior.
Orange juice, yeah.
And it causes more tooth growth at the lower and medium doses. But then when you get to the high dose, ascorbic acid and orange juice are identical. So they both cause, the way I interpret that is at that dose, they both caused the same amount of tooth growth. So
Go
is
ahead.
that accurate?
Well, that's part of the question, right? So,
Yeah. Okay.
so
If it's a
maybe all I
time for class sharing, then I can, if Bonnie can't answer that, and I could tell you that our group had a similar comment that at the high
Okay.
dose, it nearly converges.
Yes.
and
Which
they
is fascinating.
did you guys also run the graphs?
Yeah. That's where I saw that. And that's where
Yep.
Dr. O talked about it.
Yep.
How one's superior to the other, and then all of a sudden they converge at the high dose. Yeah.
So think about in real life, are there some things that we actually experience that are that way, where you think, okay, it's going to maintain this difference, but does it always? So you do have to interpret what you're seeing. But
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And the data as well as the graph tell the same story.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I guess my last or my follow-up question is, for question 2, then you only need to see the analysis, not the syntax, because it's at the top of, if we just send you the analysis file, it's got the syntax at the top.
Just make sure, what you might want to do is highlight it if you're doing it that way.
No, I meant you don't need this. I would do 2 separate files for 1 and 2, but we don't need to highlight. You just really need the analysis to show that we did the ANOVA correctly and then that we understand it.
Yes,
for
number
2 and
2 is
3.
not asking anything about syntax.
That was my question.
Yep. Are there other questions? Don't get too hung up on the clinical significance part. Just in a general term, what could this mean in a human population? Are there other questions?
Hi, it's Julie. My question about the clinical significance is you could really extrapolate a lot and go, I mean, if we get really granular and talk about tooth growth, I don't think unless you have a deficit, we're really trying to encourage that in humans. So I was concerned about kind of overthinking it and over talking about all the possibilities. We just want to extrapolate how this could be theoretically applied to a human population and if we would find significance.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep, that's a good question. Are there other questions?
When everyone feels satisfied talking about assignment 2, I have questions about assignment 3. So just let me know when you're ready.
Are there any other questions about 2? And Peggy, do you have anything you want to add about any of this?
I don't think so.
Okay. Shall we move on to 3? Our last call for 2. Let me see if I can pull up 3 without losing you guys. Okay. You're up, Lorraine.
Just walked across the room. I'm always people who Zoom with me informally know that it's an endless struggle for where my office is, and the fact that I'm ahead in time from everyone and in Las Vegas where I'm still in full sunlight to not always look like a reverse negative that's whited out on the screen, just like 2 dots of black eyes and some hair, and that's what I look like. It's a little better. So assignment number 3 is actually really frustrating me, not because I felt like I was having a hard time following along. What goes bad in my group is that when we use the sample data and do the practice exercise, comes out exactly like it's supposed to. And believing that we understand the basis for how that happens, when we go to do that on the assignment data, the NICU data set, the output comes out incomplete. And it comes out incomplete with a very specific error message related to degrees of free. I would have to look at it to say it accurately, but it comes out, if you want to know what the error message is, I'll pull up our file and say what it is.
Maybe what's best is to kind of describe what you're doing, because I've had a couple of emails about this. So condition 1, the heart rate is your dependent variable, and you
Yes.
have a heart rate for condition 1, 2, and 3, right?
Correct.
So somebody was combining those. Don't do any combining. Those are independent. Those are 3 separate groups.
Mhm.
Yeah, with the dependent variable. And then the other question I got. So the next part of that is the 12 participating infants were randomly assigned to 6 different order combinations.
Okay.
So that's just describing the methods, and it's a stronger method because so some of the infants got sucrose alone first, some of the infants got sucrose plus rocking first, and some of the infants got rocking alone first. And so the sequence of what they got varied, and that's what that's. There were 6 different order combinations of the 3 interventions. And what that does is strengthen your ability to say the differences we're seeing are the intervention, not anything else. Like if you did sucrose to everybody at the same time, and there was something else happening in the NICU at that time that influenced the heart rate. Maybe it was noisier, maybe it was a different time, who knows what. It could have been that was affecting the heart rate and not the intervention that you're interested in. So varying those really helps to control for that. But you don't have to do anything about that in the analysis. It's just a strength of the design.
So following what seems, and I'm in one of the only 2 groups that does have 2 PhD people in it, and Christy and I do these independently. We have the same thing, that when we use the practice data and follow the same steps, it comes out exactly the way it's supposed to. But when we use the assignment data, so yes, the conditions that you described, trial 1, 2, 3, we enter them and match them to trial 1, 2, 3. And then I'm not sure if my memory is going to be completely spot on, but in the between subjects box, then you put the gender and you put the gestational age in there. So
it doesn't tell you to do anything with gestational age.
So we tried that, and then when we only put the gender in, because we knew for the graph you were only interested in gender, but for the statistics we tried taking gender out, and we got the same output, but it was just condensed to having removed the other variable.
So the question is there a difference in heart rate by intervention? So it's not saying anything about gestational age. And then the second question is, do boys and girls differ in their heart rate response to the intervention? So you don't do anything with gestational age for this assignment.
Okay. So gestational age is not a factor. So then in some way, because
No.
we've excluded that and it still doesn't work. So is there actually something different about the way you apply the commands to SPSS to treat?
No.
Does
So-
gender become a covariate instead of, are we supposed to use the covariate box?
Nope.
Well, what the heck? What?
So, so Bonnie, for our output, under the multivariate tests, at the bottom, that error code that Lorraine was speaking of, I'll just read it out. It says, cannot produce multivariate test statistics because of insufficient residual degrees of freedom. Lorraine and I spent over 30 minutes Googling this error message, and the main thing we came across is if you don't have enough participants, you could end up having an insufficient residual degrees of freedom. However, the number of participants between the example, RANOVA, that you posted in the modules, and this NICU data set is the same. It's 12 participants. So we spent over an hour trying to plug in different things in different areas in SPSS after following the example RANOVA exactly and getting this error, and we still got this error regardless of what we plugged where. So we weren't sure if there was a problem with the NICU data set or a problem with the way we were plugging things in SPSS, although we tried a plethora of different combinations.
Yeah.
And Lorraine, please chime in if you have anything to add.
So I don't know exactly what you've done wrong, but if you look at what the question, particularly number 2, is asking you, is there a difference in heart rate by intervention? So you're going to plug in the trials and the dependent variables are your heart rate 1, 2, and 3. So you've got those as your dependent variables. And then you have the second part of it is the assumption of sphericity met. And then do boys and girls differ? So the second part of the analysis you have to run is the trial by gender. So it doesn't ask you anything about gestational age, which is going to come into play in your response to the clinical significance of the findings. Because what do we know about heart rate and gestational age? So it's 30 to 34 weeks. We wouldn't expect probably a huge difference, but the heart rate slows as the kid gets older. So that would be an important variable to look at some point in the future, and you have it, but it's not part of this assignment.
Okay, so that's helpful, and I understand everything you're saying. In our small group, will you let me pull up the one box where I think the answer to what we're doing wrong is? Because I saw you smiling and shaking your head. There's nothing wrong with the data set, so clearly there's something wrong with us. So will you let me do that in a small group?
Let me show you the how-to and see if that answers your question. I can't pre-grade the assignment.
I wouldn't do anything that would run it through. I believe that what you were just trying to make clear to us where we might be going wrong, that we're placing something in the wrong place, well, you're gonna show the example of it in just a moment when you scroll down, I think.
I don't know if this is big enough for you guys to see.
Unfortunately, I know what each screenshot is from looking at it too much.
Yeah. So what did you
So-
put here?
The heart rate, which is the 3 conditions. So we put heart rate, the number 3 to represent the 3 conditions, and then we advanced to adding them in the next step.
Let me pull up this data real quick here.
I just had a random thought. I haven't done this yet, so I'm no help, but I do wonder if different versions of SPSS come into play here. Because I think I have version 27, and I know that Dr. O's tutorial for this number 2 was in SPSS 22 version. And I
Yeah,
got a little bit different. I mean, the bottom line, I got the same stuff, but things looked differently along the way.
they
Do you
do
think
look.
that could be part of what's going on, is different versions?
Yeah, they do look a little different, and you have to search sometimes for things,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't. It still analyzes the data. They're still the same variables. They're still the same processes, and you still should be getting the right.
Yeah, I just had to find, like, I had to add some different steps than what he had in his PowerPoint. I figured it out pretty quickly, but they aren't exact. I wonder if that is a confounding factor, Lorraine. I don't know. Just thought I'd throw it out there.
Thank you.
Maybe it, yeah, just something to think about.
So tell me what you did here.
So in that step, oh, I think this is the box where I think we may have gone wrong. So we assigned each condition for its corresponding heart rate 1, heart rate 2, and heart rate 3. And then in the between subjects factors, that's where we put gender.
Okay.
And then we wondered if we had needed to put it as a covariate because it didn't work the other way. So we just tried something different because there's only 2 boxes. And that because it was purely categorical, but then we went off on a tangent talking about how a categorical variable can be experimental. But to answer your initial question, Bonnie, we put gender in the between subjects box.
Okay. And then you run the analysis, and it says let's see, did you click also that you wanted homogeneity?
Yes, we chose
Okay.
options and
Okay.
selected homogeneity and made sure that our alpha was set at 5%.
Okay. And
The graph comes out great.
why don't I stop sharing and you start sharing, and we'll see. I can't always tell by looking at your output what you're doing wrong, but let's try it.
Okay. Let me. That's my data. That should be it. Okay. Okay. So in a moment, I'll start. Okay. So now does everybody see the NICU data box?
Yep.
Okay. So then if we follow what we're supposed to be learning, I select repeated measures,
Mhm.
and this represents the 3 different conditions with the 3 levels. And then when we define them, we attach the non-nutritive sucking, and sucrose, and I think that one's just single rocking. And in this between subjects factor box, that's where we put the infant sex, the gender, and then in options, that's where we choose the homogeneity tests and confirm our significance level. And you want me to just skip the graph in this
No,
instance?
go ahead and do it.
Okay, so then we select plots. And in this instance, it's the heart rate represents the dependent variable on the horizontal axis. And we are only interested in plotting this with the infant sex. And you have to add it or it won't know that it's there. And at that point, when we continue, if we tell it okay to create the output, do you want me to do that, Bonnie?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I think I have to switch screens. Does everybody see the output, or do they still only see the data set?
We still see the data.
Okay, hold on one second and I'll toggle. This becomes the output. And now do you see the output?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. We were actually talking about Einstein's definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and getting the same bad result. What happened every single time is that it wouldn't put in, it wouldn't finish a significance. We'd get the correct tests, but it wouldn't complete the multivariate test and it wouldn't complete the test of sphericity. And now it did. I don't have anything to say other than to be really happy it worked. I don't know what happened.
Lorraine, do you want to show, did you save your other output that shows the residual degrees of freedom error?
I did, but I don't even know if that would be useful for anybody else's time. It just shows how somewhere we were definitely doing something wrong.
That's weird though, because we did follow those same exact steps and we got a different output.
Yes, you could tell I was quite practiced in reviewing what I had done over and over.
Will you
That's super
scroll down and
Sure.
just let me peek at what you got for the graphs?
Yes, of course.
Well, sticking with my answer about not wanting to grade this ahead of time, I'll just say, do you have questions based on this?
Other than the mysterious question of how it worked now and not before, no, because I wouldn't collectively use this time to now review the results and do the other part of the assignment. But definitely, unless you were interested, I heard what Christy, my partner, was saying. I don't even know that you would want to look at the one that just kept repeatedly coming out saying.
I can't always tell from what, I mean, I'm happy to look and see if we can tell, but I can't always tell what went wrong, but save this somewhere.
Absolutely. Sorry, everyone, but I must save it right now. Good grief. Well, at least we were sensible enough people that after it repeatedly kept coming out wrong, we said we have to stop doing this. We're just pushing the same buttons over and over in a similar sequence to what the example told us to do.
Yeah, I don't know. Why don't you pull up the other one and we can see if we can tell by looking at it what went wrong.
Okay.
Do other people have questions about what she just did?
I don't, because I haven't tried it yet.
Okay.
Lorraine, I might be stalking you next week when I finally try to do this.
Well, I hate to
I wouldn't
say
be
that.
unhappy to be stalked by you, Anne.
Yeah, no, I haven't gotten that far ahead of the game, so I don't know.
But one of the things you did mention, Anne, you were talking about version numbers.
Yes.
I pretty much agree with Bonnie that it doesn't matter which version you
Yeah.
bought, not version number, but it does matter. At one point, Christy, it was confirmed to her that it was okay to buy the basic version. The basic version can't do repeated measures.
Oh,
It can't do advanced stats, the base. You have to do a standard or higher version of SPSS in order to do more advanced statistics like the Renova or even a multivariate.
So go back up there. The problem you have with this is you have the gestational weeks in there.
I opened the wrong one. I have multiple versions. I have one also
Okay.
that doesn't have the gestational weeks in it, where it was just the heart rate. But thank you. That was that junk one.
So, Christy, did you have to go back in and rebuy? Because I think maybe, because I opened this assignment and I also saw that I only had univariate as an option.
Yep.
How did you remedy that? Did you have to completely start over buying it, or?
I worked with Lorraine.
what version do you have, Christy?
I just have the base. I can't remember which one, but Bonnie had sent us that link to the student discounted ones, and I just purchased the cheapest one that was the base version of SPSS. I think there are 3 different versions: base, standard, and I don't know what the other one is. And so I was under the impression it could do all the calculations for these assignments, but it can't, unfortunately. So for the purposes of the next 2 assignments, Lorraine and I are just Zoom sharing and using her standard program. So.
Interesting, because I bought, mine was $34.99, I think, and I have a Mac, and the only version that I could download on my Mac is version 27, and I actually had to get the SPSS helpline, and it took them, I think we worked together for about an hour to get it to download on my Mac and work, but we finally got it. But it's version 27. And
it's really
fingers
interesting.
crossed, I can do everything I need to do in these next assignments with it.
I had no issues downloading the base version on my Mac at all, but it just can't do the advanced stats stuff that we need it to do for assignments 3 and 4, unfortunately.
Well, shoot.
So.
I hope I have the right version.
Yeah, don't anybody buy a second version. So just be in touch with me if there are other issues. Because I don't want you to buy a second one.
Is there like an add-on that you can purchase, Bonnie, so you don't have to purchase an entire new package?
You know what I would do is call them and just say, because it used to be the free version was the only version that wouldn't do it. So obviously something's changed. So what you could do is call, but you're in a group with Lorraine, right?
Yeah, for now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna use SPSS in Quant 2, but we could check on that.
Oh, okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, let me check on that. They're talking about moving to R. And Peggy, have you heard any resolution on that? Are they going to move to R?
I have not.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
They're talking about it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we've been talking about it for years, and we never make a decision. But anyway, The other,
Is that the only scenario in which you wouldn't use SPSS in Quant 2 is if they move to R?
you know, I don't know the answer to that because the faculty who are teaching it have changed. So the other option you have, Christy, is to call the company and just explain that you purchased this version and it's not doing the assignments, and see if they'll let you swap.
Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah,
I
because
know-
I've heard.
I know
Do you
that.
know who's teaching Quant 2 next semester?
Is Paul going to teach it again, Peggy, or?
I haven't seen that.
I think it's Mustafa, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, I hadn't heard that.
I can look it up if you want me to.
That would be great,
Right.
because then we could actually get the answer to that.
I'm really
Hopefully
glad
we
for the
have a
heads
free
up.
R
that-
version too that's free to us.
What's that?
Oh, supposedly because there's a R class next semester, like through the library, and
Yeah.
they said it's a free download,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes that doesn't last very long. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's just very different program, and I don't have expertise, so I don't know. All right, are there other questions about assignment 3?
I just want to make sure you saw, because you helped me work through that, even though I can't say I truly noticed a difference in the choices I was making for the commands I was giving SPSS. Along the way, Bonnie, I must have dumped some files because I was just getting a collection of output with that degrees of freedom. But I guess it wasn't all for naught, because Christy and I did some learning about how sample size can limit certain functions that you load onto. And we were like, how do we decrease load? And we were like, we don't even know what we're talking about exactly now. How are we going to figure out something more advanced? And
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry you got frustrated and kept getting the wrong answer, but I can't quite understand. I mean, you just.
I think we learned plenty, and this is what these sessions are for. And when we're here with you, you're very helpful. So, I mean, there it is. And now we'll concentrate. Now we'll have the data to reflect on, to concentrate when we're doing the reading to analyze it.
Yeah, and look at those how-to sheets for interpretation as well. I think those are helpful.
So Bonnie, Mustafa is teaching Quant 2 in spring.
Christina knew it.
Mustafa. And R is a free program.
Yeah,
That's they want to move to R because
Yep.
it's free.
Yeah, in the library, like I said, they have something in January. They have a lot of classes, it looks like.
Yeah, I've heard it's really good, but it is a learning curve, just like any of them are. But
Bonnie, how does R differ from SPSS? I've never heard of R before.
R allows you to do much more sophisticated analysis. And, you know, the way the world is working with multivariate and multi-level kind of modeling and that sort of thing, it's going to be far better for that. What I worry just a little bit about is for these basic understanding of the process like we do in Quant 1, I don't know how user-friendly it is. And as I said, I don't have expertise, so I might be wrong about that. But it doesn't make sense for you not to learn it, because it's the way the science is going to be conducted, is to have that higher level statistics. You guys are going to be moving in that direction. So
Bonnie, it also has better ability for visualizations.
yeah, yep.
So biostatisticians currently are trending towards using R versus SPSS?
They're there.
Absolutely.
They're there.
Okay, got it.
I'm going to hire a biostatistician when the time comes. That's my plan.
Keep
I remember
that-
thinking that, and then when it got time to do my data analysis for my dissertation, guess who had to do it? I
I was
did.
gonna say, keep that a secret, Anne, because the expectations are for you to do the analysis for your dissertation. But you're
Okay.
doing,
Well,
are
all
you-
right. I won't cheat. I'll do what I need to do. I'll do what's expected of me. I'm just saying math and I are not, that is my weak link in my brain is math.
But
So,
for everybody in both programs, in the DMP and the PhD, there are staff in the Center for Nursing Research to help you with this. So
Yeah.
yes, you're supposed to do it, but yes, there is support.
so let me rephrase. I will get good support from a statistician. I will
there
not
you go.
let
There you
someone
go.
else do it for me, but I will get supported
There
so
you
that I
go.
understand it.
Yeah.
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 I was just being kind of, I don't know, not serious, just trying to make a joke, actually.
Well, in my opinion, the strongest NIH proposals and I'm reviewing a stack here right now for a study section in a week, they have an expert biostatistician on these grants because we have the other expertise, and it's a stronger team if you have people who have expertise in each aspect of it. So in the real world, is that how it's done? That's what I think. But it's not what we let you get away with in the program. So
But doing your own really teaches you learn a lot more about statistics that way. And then you can evaluate studies a lot better, even though maybe that's not what you're going to do the rest of your life.
yeah,
Data analysis.
we hope that you're learning something useful. It is not our intent to just be torturing you.
You learn a lot by doing it.
Any other questions?
It may be in the rubric. What is the page length that are, well, for us in the PhD program, that our dissertation proposal paper turns into?
Yeah, that's
What
a
is the
very
max?
That's a very good question. So the page length for the proposal in this class is 15 pages. What you're going to have for a dissertation proposal is going to be much longer than that. And so for the focus of this class, be very succinct in every aspect and use your space for the methods and the analysis, because that's where the majority of the points are. So if you look at the rubric, the majority of the points are around the methods. So that's where I'd use this space. And you can be very concise. I think Christina somebody asked me a question about this earlier. And, you've probably written a whole paper on the theory behind the work you're proposing to do. You're going to put that into the dissertation proposal, but you're not going to put all that into the paper for this class. Save the space for this class to tell me about methods and analysis. That's the majority of the point.
No. Thank you. Now I'm doing the opposite of what I did before. I'm asking a question about an assignment that's already turned in, and I didn't ask the question before turning the assignment.
Your paper's not turned in, just your...
Oh, no, I'm about to ask you something about the outline.
Oh, okay.
In the outline, when I got to the part about results is its own main Roman numeral. I mean, for the format that I followed from the combo of the PhD handbook and what you had put in our module, what would we have said about results at this point?
You won't have results for the proposal.
Great, because I wrote results to be completed.
Results, discussion, and conclusions you can't address until you do the study.
great.
Yeah.
That
So-
made sense to me, but for the way my work schedule went, I got wiped off the map for like 36 hours. And I thought, well, if I was supposed to know something about my results, I don't. And my Roman numeral number 4 says results to be completed.
Yeah, no. Yeah, this is just the proposal. You're not gonna have any findings, discussion, or conclusions. You won't have strengths and weaknesses, all of that stuff that you'll do in the final project or proposal, you won't have. So you're kind of done at the methods and the analysis.
Okay, and then the one section I did include, and I guess when you were inviting us that if we gave you a very well-formed outline, our reward would be your feedback.
Right.
For discussion and conclusion, for me, that's just all, it came from the PhD handbook where you told me to go, and it's about implications for further research and implications for nursing. So it's not concrete, but it's not based on results, but we have an idea in principle and based on a gap analysis and other meaningful reasons for the significance of doing a study, what we could project that these implications are. And
yeah, that's beyond what you need to do for the paper for this class. And I will not take points off for that in the outline, and I'll just give you that feedback. And then you can skip that part in the paper.
good. Well, now my page length is starting to get more reasonable. Okay.
Good. Are there other questions that people have about the paper that they want to ask? Anybody have anything else? Jen, you've been very quiet. Do you have anything?
I'm taking it all in. So I'm over here taking notes, but no, I don't have any.
I see you paying attention and diligently taking notes. I just want to make sure we didn't miss any of your questions.
Just to kind of clarify, so the proposal that we turn in a few weeks, the max is 15 pages?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you said? Okay.
Yep. And really pay attention to the rubric, because the majority of the points, that's where you want to spend your pages. So be concise. And if it's only a point as opposed to 40 points, I'd say a lot more about what you have to tell me in the 40-point section.
For sure. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
I have to go for another meeting. Have a nice evening.
Bye, Peggy. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anything else, guys?
I'm good till next time.
All right. There's
Thanks,
always a
Judy.
next time.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Bonnie.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
If you want to stalk me, Anne, you know where to find me.